Happy Tuesday. It is Tuesday, August the 30th, the 242nd day of the year. There are 123 days left in 2022. Welcome to another edition of Tuesdays with Thom. It feels good to say that today. I didn't get to say that last week. So happy Tuesday again. It's good to be back. I missed you all last week. I appreciate the TWT team putting the show together and executing like the professionals that they are. Thank you all very much. Thank you for the audience, for giving the team your support. A huge thank you for my friend Joe Slowinski. Joe wrote Miracle in the Woods, which is streaming now on Amazon Prime. Check it out if you get a chance. You get to see me in action. I'm trying to remember what my name was on that show. But it's a good film. If you get a chance, check it out, please do. It was one of my first jobs in Hollywood. We had a ball. We shot it in Wilmington, North Carolina. Thanks, Joe. I'm sorry I wasn't there. So, where was I last week? Well, I had a health issue. I had some surgery, hernia surgery. Everything went well. I'm glad to be back. Glad to be here with you. Some upcoming dates to remember as we go forward. The Mighty, the documentary of Pat Dye, former Auburn coach, the life and legacy of Pat Dye. It will have its world premiere at the Gooch Center on campus Friday night. Check it out if you get a chance. On October 26th and 27th, fellow actor and good friend Michael O'Neill and I will present a two-man production called Alabama Boys at the Gooch Center on campus, on Auburn's campus. It is going to be a lot of fun. Two men grow up separate and unequal in Alabama and end up living within 5 miles of each other in Los Angeles, where they both work as actors. Congratulations to my good friend and attorney, Robert Baugh. Robert has been given the honor of being one of the best lawyers in 2023. He does insurance law, and he's one of the lawyers of the year for Birmingham, and he's a good friend. Congratulations, Robert. Hope to see you soon. So, our G-list guest today is Mary Sood. Mary is a PR professional, communications professional. We look forward to talking with her this morning. And she is our G-list guest. So this edition of Tuesdays with Thom, of course, is sponsored by our partner, the Best Girl Consulting Firm. Best Girl has been providing customized solutions to executive issues for 34 years. Let's hear from Best Girl.
Best Girl is a consulting firm that provides customized leadership, access and inclusion, public relations, communications, and organizational consulting services. Clients include Fortune 500 companies, utilities, higher education institutions, small businesses, and associations. Best Girl's team of consultants, led by Joyce Gilly-Gossam, Emily Hedrick, and Sean Jones, partners with business and education clients to promote organizational effectiveness, communication, motivation, and leadership, with always an impact on the bottom line. Best Girl's customized consulting services include strategic planning, corporate communication, executive coaching, fundraising, and economic development.
Best Girl creates the solution that fits your needs. So let's get to our roundtable people here this morning. Barbara Wallace-Edwards and Michael Walker. I'm just going to kind of throw this thing open. We got a lot to talk about today. So good morning, Barbara and Michael. How are you doing?
Good morning.
Good morning. Doing well.
Doing well, thank you.
I appreciate you guys stepping in last week and knocking it out of the park. Michael, especially appreciate you stepping in and being the voice, the leader of the show, and Barbara, always appreciate your support. So thank you guys very much.
Thank you, Thom. It was a privilege. It was an honor and a pleasure.
Absolutely. We missed you, but Michael did a great job stepping in. So we don't want you to have to go back and miss another week. But if so, Michael's always a good stand-in.
You don't want me to, and I don't want to. So, so what's happening with you guys? This is football season's coming up. I did see where, believe it or not, Vanderbilt beat Hawaii 63-10.
Yes.
Man, things have changed in college football a
Yes,
lot,
they
haven't they?
have. Yes,
I
they
saw
have.
where Northwestern beat Nebraska.
Oh, I
Northwestern
didn't
could
see that.
never win a football game. And
No.
Nebraska was one of the top teams in the country. But
Yes.
yeah, they beat Nebraska.
Wow.
So let's talk a little bit. What do you guys got going on?
Go ahead, Barbara. You
Well,
start us.
I had a very busy weekend, Tom. I attended the 24th annual Sidewalk Film Festival here in Birmingham, Alabama, and the 4th Avenue Jazz Festival in downtown Birmingham. So it was a busy, busy weekend, but enjoyable. Had a
How
great
was the
time.
film festival?
It was absolutely phenomenal. It was, week long event. Started on last Monday, ended on Sunday night, and downtown Birmingham was jumping. They used venues all over downtown: the Carver Theater, the New Lyric Theater, Alabama Theater, the Birmingham Museum of Art, the Civil Rights Institute, um, Dr. J. Jemison Theater. So they were just events all over the city, and some of the films were phenomenal. I actually volunteered part of the time, so I didn't get a chance to see many of the films, but I did get a chance to stick my head in on The Descendants, which was a documentary about the descendants of the Clotilda, that the Africans who were brought into Mobile. And that was very, very good. And another one that I got a chance to see just a snippet of was A Walk with Joy, which was the story of Lionel Little Train James and his friendship with Joey Hale, who was a young man who'd had some physical problems. And so both of those, if you get a chance to check either one of those out, please do. But all of the films, like I said, this is the book from the week, and it was just filled with documentaries, short films, movies. Great, great event.
Barbara, I'd like to have a further conversation with you. I've got a
Okay.
film festival project that we're going to work
Yes.
on.
Okay.
And I'd love to have you help me deal with that. And
I
so
will be more than
hang on to
happy.
that book.
I will. Certainly will.
Okay. Michael, what's happening with you, bud?
Hey, man. I tell you what, it's for me, my weekend was nowhere near as interesting and pleasurable as Barbara's weekend. But I just have to have a complaint. I'm just so frustrated with the work ethic of America nowadays and the lack of customer service and people not giving a crap about their jobs or taking ownership. You remember when we were young and the teacher used to tell you, if you put your name on the paper, you got to do it the best because that speaks for you. All of that is gone now. I was working on a project this weekend that I was trying to
blink and he froze.
He froze. Bless his heart. I think there's some weather issues in Atlanta, so it may be affecting him.
Yeah. Okay. I'm back now, I guess.
Okay.
The lawyer sent me a 123-page PDF at 5:00 on Friday that I had to go through, make sure I didn't miss a page to sign, get 6 pages notarized, have it and pondered before by Monday morning at 10.
Wow.
I got it done, did it all, paid $102 to have UPS deliver it. It didn't. And nobody even called me. And then I go online to track it. It says out for delivery, UPS. Well, I don't know delivery because it's being withheld because the proper weight wasn't added to it. And the billing, we got to rebill. I said, it's not going to be rebill. It's going to be a refund. You need to get there. Right. The fact that it's not doesn't weigh the proper amount. Whose fault is that? And, that's what I spent all day doing after I
Man, I'm sorry. You're just cutting in and out.
Yeah, it's
cutting in and out. Got bad weather?
Yes, we do. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm sorry about that.
No, I understand. The thing I think that frustrates me more than anything, we've got all this technology, and the communication is as worse as it's ever been.
Absolutely.
Right.
And
Yes.
it's there at their
Won't-
fingertips and they don't use it. That's the sad
Exactly.
part.
Exactly.
Right.
Well, the other thing about having all the communication is when people screw up, they can't hide from it.
Right.
And so they try to ignore it.
Yes.
And if you're in your position, Michael, which position I try to be in, is that you know you've done everything correctly.
Mm-hmm.
You know you've put it where it's supposed to be, and you're looking for somebody on the other end to do what they're responsible for.
Yes.
And, so I'm with you. I understand you, man. I you keep talking about it, I'll get pissed off with you. So,
There's nothing more frustrating, especially like Michael said, he took his whole weekend to work on this thing to make sure it got there on time, and it still didn't get there on time due to no fault of his own. So that has to be the most frustrating feeling in the world.
Yeah.
is this, and I don't want to get into your business on the show here, but this is the project you were telling me about?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
Well,
Yeah.
hopefully everything will work out.
Yeah, I appreciate it. A couple crazy things I'd like to mention. You know, the former occupant of the White House came out and declared that he needs to be reinstated or a new election need to be held immediately. I mean, I find that
Well,
absolutely.
what now? What's the rationale behind that now?
I guess because of the FBI raid, I have no idea.
Yeah.
You know, it's just ridiculous. And what's more ridiculous is that this great senator from the great state of South Carolina, Lindsey Graham, he comes out and says there are going to be riots in the streets if Trump is convicted.
Yeah. But he admits that what Trump did was wrong. But saying he's above the law, so there's going to be riots in the streets if he's charged with anything. It's like, really?
Yes.
Well, you know what's interesting about Lindsey Graham, and I'm just going to say this on the air, but I'd love to know what they have on Lindsey Graham.
Yeah,
they got something on Lindsey Graham, because
really
when the thing first happened, I think it was the January 6th thing or whatever. Mm-hmm. Maybe it was the other thing he did. He did so many things. Lindsey Graham came out and said he was wrong, said this was wrong. He should be whatever this punished, this so and so forth, so and so forth.
Right.
Because Lindsey Graham thought he was gone.
Right.
And then he came back, and Lindsey Graham backed up like a little child, you know?
Yes.
So they got something on Lindsey Graham, you know.
Yes. Lindsey Graham and Mitch McConnell, they both kind of backpedaled on that one.
Yeah.
So
they used to say, and when I was dabbling in Alabama politics, but the worst thing that could happen is if they caught you with a live girl or a dead boy. And so I don't know. I'm gonna leave Lindsey Graham at that.
Something's going on.
You know, by him making that statement, he could be, in fact, encouraging.
Sure.
And insinuating.
That's exactly what it was.
That's exactly what's happening.
So why would you do that given what just took place and what all this is about?
And given the fact that you're supposed to be a leader of the American people. You're not a leader of the Republicans. You're not a leader for Trump. You're a leader for the American people.
He was elected by the people of the state of South Carolina to make sure that their needs are met. And
Antley voted for him. So,
Antley, come on.
Antley's one of his biggest supporters. What else you guys got? Let's talk a little bit. Michael, is that you got something else?
That's it. I figured you're gonna bring up the elephant in the room.
Can I make one more?
Go ahead.
I want to congratulate Big D, Daryl Brayton, our friend to TWT.
Yeah.
He was recently assigned as the new FCA director for the men's basketball program at UAB. So congratulations,
Oh,
Big D.
wow, that's great.
Yeah.
Congratulations, Big D. I'll have to give you a call.
Yes.
Yeah, he deserved it. And UAB, you know, there's something to be said for the guys who were the pioneers of these programs.
Yes.
And they started that UAB program.
Mm-hmm.
And you just don't turn your back on people who start programs, because
Right.
there is no precedent for them.
Right.
They have to make it up themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And so good for Big D.
Yes.
Good for Big D.
Happy for him.
Barbara, you got anything else? So let's just talk football just for a second here and see what we got. So Auburn's athletic director resigned. I guess today is his last day, or tomorrow is his last day.
The 31st. Yes.
I saw where there are 7 potential candidates for the job.
I think that's all speculation at that point. I don't think there's been an announcement by the university, or at least I haven't seen an official announcement by the university.
I think that's some reporter trying to get ahead of the thing.
Mm-hmm.
But it's interesting, the 7 people that they came up with.
Yes.
And it's interesting that I guess he's still the current athletic director, has had to step aside.
It is.
With the new president.
Mm-hmm.
Any comments?
I'll let Michael go first.
Well, I'll just say this, that it's not a complete surprise to me at all, to be honest with you. There's been rumblings. I heard as far back as last October that he probably would not be around much longer and the extension would not be granted. And they always say that when a new president is brought in, he wants his own people. And so there's a turnover. So that kind of makes sense and goes with that. I think that there are a lot of people that are speculating and making comments. And, you know, unfortunately, there are a lot of people in the sports aura or venue, or I'll say media. I hate to say media because I don't want to throw everybody in there, but the people that are sportscasters that are making statements that are kind of insinuating maybe that this was somewhat racial, or because Alan Green was the first African-American athletic director for Auburn, only the second in the SEC, I think, behind Georgia had one, and that he was such a great guy and all of this. But I don't necessarily think it was that. Was it politics? Sure. Everything is political. But I don't think it really had to do anything with race in this particular case. I could be wrong. But it looks that way because of Auburn's history.
Right.
Okay. Barbara?
I can agree with that. I don't think it was, had anything to do with race. I think it's more politics. He was hired, Alan Green was hired by the former president of the university, Dr. Lee. And I think there are probably some that are not happy that he's still there, that they didn't want anyone that was associated with Dr. Lee to still be involved in the university. So that may be part of it. But I will tell you, there are a lot of alums that are highly upset about him leaving. They feel like the timing is not right, that he should have been given another opportunity to see, at least to the end of the football season, to see what was going to happen. And again, he resigned, so I don't think anyone actually forced him out. I think he probably went back to the university or at least the media saying he went to the university to see if he could go ahead and get his contract signed now rather than waiting until the end of the season. And that wasn't going to happen, and he decided to resign. So, but there are people on both sides. Some are happy he's gone, but I've seen a lot of social media posts regarding people being upset that he's leaving. That he's a really good guy. People loved him. and they're just not real happy right now.
Okay. Well, um, I don't know that much about that situation. And I wasn't close to Alan Green, I'll say that.
Right.
And so we'll see where it goes.
Mm-hmm.
Michael, you got any further comments on it?
I just think it'll be interesting to see who we have as a replacement.
Yes.
You know, there's a lot of talk about someone with Auburn ties, some people that understand the lay of the land at Auburn, you know, and the culture there. I thought it was interesting that Paul Feinbaum came out and supported Auburn in this move on his talk show. Well, not his talk show, but Elroy and Kubik. Elroy played quarterback in Alabama, and Cole Kubik played offensive line at Auburn. They have a talk show in Birmingham. And Paul Feinbaum came out and said, you know, he's often chastised Auburn, but in this particular incident, he supported the move. I thought that was rather interesting as well.
Mm-hmm. That is interesting.
What did he say? Did he say why he supported the move?
Well, what he said was that it was a situation where, according to him, that this athletic director, once he came in, he continued to look for other jobs, although he had the position at Auburn, and that rubbed some people the wrong way. And it felt like he really was not all in with Auburn, so to speak. So, you know, he says that's what a lot of people out there in the landscape that are making these comments do not understand. And the fact that maybe he perhaps did not build relationships with certain people that he needed to build with in order to move forward. And of course, what Barbara said with the former president, Leith, that baggage kind of hurt as well.
Absolutely.
I wonder how that affects Coach Harsin.
I agree.
Because Leith, Green, Harsin are all kind of tied to the same string, so to speak. So hopefully Coach Harsin will get off to a good start. He's got a schedule that could have him at 5-0 if he wins the first 5, or he could be 4-1. At worst, he could probably be no worse than 3-2. So
it's going to be interesting. I think the end of the season will dictate whether he stays at Auburn or not. And there's some rumor that if he does well, he may leave on his own. You know, he may get a job offer somewhere else and go. But if he does bad, I think that the people at Auburn, the decision makers, will make that decision for him, and he won't have an opportunity to stay. So, you know,
one thing I like to just say about Harsin is that I'm impressed with how he's handled this quarterback competition, because the sports media, they all but coronated Zach Calzada from Texas A&M as the starting quarterback when he transferred.
Yes.
And Harsin let it play out. And he has said that TJ Finley is most prepared and separated himself. And Robbie Ashford, who is one of my favorites, is the number 2. So for him to really go that way about it and say it was won on the field, I admire that it wasn't given to Calzada like everybody thought it would be.
I probably in agreement with that. I think to me, and I don't know Coach Harsin. Let me just say that I have not met the man. He seems like a fighter. Seems like a guy who doesn't just give up, and he wants that for his football team. And one of the first things that he did when he came was start talking a lot of tough talk. Now, I think they made some mistakes last year. They lost 2 or 3 games they shouldn't have lost to me.
Right.
And Antley's on here, and we certainly shouldn't have lost to South Carolina. but I will say, I think, and he may very well leave on his own. I mean, he's a long way from home, you know.
He is.
And but as my impression of him is, he's a fighter. He's going to instill that in his team. I think Auburn has what they always have. We have enough talent to win in the SEC. Um, and so it's just a matter of will we execute and will we win? And can TJ, and I like Robbie Ashford too. I remember when he was at Hoover High School, wasn't it, in
Yes.
Birmingham?
Yes, he was.
If we can use those guys and win some football games.
Absolutely.
Um,
And
okay.
Thom, I haven't been around the team. I haven't been in any practices or anything, but I've seen comments from those who have attended several of the scrimmages and who've been around the team and know some of the players saying that there's a unity now about this team that they haven't had for quite some time. So, that in itself speaks volumes, I think. And so he's rallied around the team members and gotten them to play as a team, it appears, and be more unified. And I think they're all excited that TJ was selected to be the starting quarterback for the season. So I think things may be looking up for our Auburn Tigers.
Well, we'll see. I certainly hope so, for the kids' sake and for the coaches' sake. We don't need to, in my opinion, change coaches again this quickly.
I agree.
I just don't think that's good for the university.
Right.
And I always ask this question. I always ask people, do you know who the last coach was at Auburn that didn't get fired? And nobody can come up with the answer. And the answer is Shug Jordan.
Shug Jordan.
1975.
Yes.
And every coach since then has been released.
Yes.
And we can do better than that.
Yes, we can.
And I think we will do better than that. I think we'll do better than that under Harsin. I think we'll do better than that under President Chris Roberts.
Chris Roberts, yes.
Yeah, I do. We got to let the dust settle. It's unfortunate about Alan Green. Again, I didn't know him, so I'm just going to leave it at that.
Right.
Anyway, anything else?
Serena's playing her final tournament this week. Thom, I think she actually won her first. Had her first victory.
I watched.
She won last night. Yes.
Yeah, she was great. Man, that's you know what? It kills me in basketball and football, because they always want to tell you who the greatest of all time was. Well, there's no way to know that, because they played in different eras. I don't know. Is LeBron James better than Wilt Chamberlain? Give me Wilt Chamberlain. Any man that can just turn around and dunk and score 100 points and get 62 rebounds, I'm going to take him.
Right.
But in tennis, you can tell who the greatest was, because they go head to head.
Yes.
And she, both she and her sister just been phenomenal.
Yes.
And I'm proud for her. I watched it last night, boy, and she, she's older now. Mm-hmm. She's not in that kind of shape that she was in when she was a young person, like we all are.
Right.
But boy, she was playing some hard tennis last night. She was not going to go out, at least in that first round. She wasn't going out in the first round. Right. And then I see she and her sister are going to play doubles.
Doubles, they are. That's going to be great.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. Anything else? But let's go to Mary Sood and get it. Well, no, I'm sorry. We got to get Sean on here. Sean, I've been gone for a week and I got myself out of order, but come on in and got a minute for us, please.
Hello and happy Tuesday to everyone joining in with us this morning. I hope you all are well and in great spirits as we get ready to say goodbye to August and jump right on into September. Now, today's Got a Minute is really special because not only will you hear about not one, but two first accomplishments. Now, let's get into it. On this day in 1967, Thurgood Marshall becomes the first African American to be confirmed as a Supreme Court justice. He would remain on the Supreme Court for 24 years before retiring for health reasons, leaving a legacy of upholding the rights of the individuals as guaranteed by the U.S. Constitution. And U.S. Air Force Lieutenant Colonel Gian Bluford becomes the first African American to travel into space when the space shuttle Challenger lifts off on its third mission. It was the first night launch of a space shuttle, and many people stayed up late to watch the spacecraft roar over Cape Canaveral, Florida at 2:32 a.m. Thank you all for joining in. My name is Sean Jones, and this has Got a Minute.
Thank you, Sean. We got a couple of comments before we go to our G-list guest. And my good friend Art Jenkins says Serena's going to be out in the second round. Mm-hmm. So we'll see how that goes. And our good friend Atlas says that he didn't vote for that senator, so you can't blame him for what the senator from South Carolina does. Okay. Let's go to our G-list. Our G-list guest today is Mary Sood. Mary is an award-winning communications professional. She's an author, she's an illustrator, and a video producer. She has utilized her expertise in PR to help academic institutions, municipalities, businesses, and nonprofit organizations and entities enhance their brand perception. So I'm looking forward. She has also produced several diverse publications, including Yellow Kitten Goes to Paris, Freshman 15, the most important things I learned in my first year of college. Yeah, I can tell you what I learned in my first year of college. And a mother-daughter perspective. So let's get Mary Sood on here. Good morning, Mary.
Good morning. How are you?
We are doing great. How are you doing?
Wonderful. Thanks for having me on.
Well, thanks for being with us this morning. So tell us what's going on with you on this day.
Oh, wow. Well, I've got a lot of work to do today. And so it's fun to start off with, with you all. And then I'll just dive into all the projects I've got to do.
Okay. So tell us about some of the Yellow Kitten Goes to Paris, Freshman 15. Those are publications, videos?
Yes, I've done a number of books. I've been a PR professional for years and years, but I also have lots of hobbies and other things I enjoy doing, including writing books, co-authoring books, illustrating books, and have a number of books out. One I'm going to hold up just because my niece, when she was very little, we were talking about it yesterday, she illustrated the cover of this book for me, Gin Tours Birmingham, and she was real proud of that. So I talked to her yesterday. And she said, "Oh, talk about that." So I made sure we saw that. I got to show her name, Chloe Michelle, there. But she illustrated that book for me, and I've inherited a cat who was just kind of given to me and foisted upon me, and so that gives me inspiration for lots of books and ideas.
So, tell me now, is this a children's book or?
I've done children's books. I've done adult books. I've had my camera. I was trying to get that shadow off of me. It looks really hard to see me, but I've done children's books. I've done adult books. I've done books with my daughter. One of my daughters, she's a dentist now, but when she was in her freshman year at Tuskegee University, where she did her undergraduate degree, she wanted to write a book, and I'd done books in the past, and she was inspired by that and wanted to write a book. So she started something, and she asked me to help her with editing. And it became Freshman 15, the most important things I learned in my first year of college. And that book was very inspirational. Many people told her how it inspired them. She talked about success tips and all of, things that you could do to be successful in school, both personally and to get the good grades that you need and prepare for your future. Then in addition to that, my daughter and I worked on another book about success at every age, a mother-daughter perspective. And it's just encouraging people to, go after their dreams, whatever age you are. A few years ago, someone wrote on Facebook something that just struck me. She wrote that a lady talked about, she was a younger lady, she talked about this older woman she knew who was still trying to push her social media. And she thought, when I get to that age, I don't want to be doing all that. And a lot of people were agreeing with her, but I was really irritated by it because I thought, well, men at 75 are often thinking, wow, this is a good time to run for president of the United States. You know, I've got a lot of wisdom behind me. You know, I'm going to do something with this. But for women, sometimes, you know, we're taught that it's time to give up at a certain age. And I like the idea of going after dreams, whatever age you are. I think young people should do it in whatever age you are. If there's something you want to accomplish, something you can contribute to the world, you should be able to do that.
Good deal. I agree with you. Thank you so much. Let's get Barbara. Barbara, what do you got for Miss Sood?
Good morning, Mary.
Good morning.
I wanted to just ask you about your start. How did you get started in this profession, and what made you decide to choose this particular profession?
Well, I started in public relations. When I got out of college, I was an English major. And back in the day, most PR people were actually English or journalism majors. Mm-hmm. And so I was an English major, and I returned to Chicago, where I'm from. And I was working at night as a proofreader at a law firm. And so I stayed up all night proofreading legal documents. Then I was a journalist in the daytime for a weekly newspaper. I was doing freelance work for Loyola University in their communications department, writing occasional freelance articles. And then I met someone from the American Cancer Society who asked me to be a volunteer. And so I thought, okay, I'll be a volunteer. And they asked me to write some news releases. And then they asked me to work as their PR director. And so that's how I moved into public relations. And it just came by chance, which I think that used to be the way it was. Yes. Now, of course, you have many PR degrees and people are, you know, that's their focus now.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that's great. Thank you.
Great. Yeah, thank you. Barbara, is that it? Michael?
Sure. Good morning, Mary. Thanks for being here with us. First of all, I want to congratulate you on your awards that you received. I understand you got the HBC Campaign Fund 2021 Women's History Month honoree and a recipient of Diverse American Advertising Federation Award, including Club Achievement. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, you know, I think just the HBCU Campaign Fund, they knew me. I thought of myself as kind of the background person. I worked for many years for Talladega College, which is an HBCU. I also used to work for another HBCU and have done freelance work for a number of HBCUs. And I thought of myself as just doing my job, but the person there was really impressed by the work I was doing to draw light to the college. And so I was very surprised when he selected me for that, because I thought, oh, that's quite an honor. It wasn't something I expected. And of course, I'm very proud of it and excited about it, because PR is very often a background field. So you're not necessarily expecting to get, you know, the honors and awards. You're often setting up other people, your organization, for example, to get honors and awards, and for people to see how great the organization is. And then with American Advertising Federation, one of the things I'd worked on, I used to be a member of the organization for several years. And they had a national initiative to get more diversity in their clubs. Their clubs are made up of people in advertising, marketing, public relations, and affiliated fields. And they felt that, you know, all of our clubs are, you know, not very diverse at all. They're not reflecting the real world. And they wanted to do something about it. And that was at a time, too, when advertising was really, people were complaining a lot about advertising because they're making a lot of mistakes in advertising, major egregious mistakes in terms of things that they were doing that were racially insensitive. And so the Advertising Federation felt like one way to address that was getting more people in their clubs, you know, promoting people in the field, et cetera. And one of the things I did, I was at Stillman College at the time, where I was in Tuscaloosa at the time. And I was very instrumental in helping them to get a large group of diverse people to join the club and be a part of the club. And we got together, we created a scholarship for a student at Stillman College, and, you know, did a number of things to just make a difference, I think.
Great. Fantastic.
Great.
Okay. Barbara?
Mary, did I read somewhere that you actually homeschooled your children?
I did. I homeschooled my children for 8 years.
Oh, wow.
You know, people
talk about that and what made you make that decision, and how did it turn out?
It turned out very well. You know, one daughter is a dentist and she's very happy with that. Another daughter, she's in PR like me. She's a PR specialist, so she focused specifically on media relations. Okay. And it was a good experience for me. And many times people are amazed that I did that. It was a very rare thing at the time, but everybody got to experience it during COVID. So
Right.
now, now everyone knows what homeschooling is like.
Schooling is like,
And
yes.
some of them think it's great, and some of them think they can't believe I did this voluntarily for 8 years. But I actually enjoyed it. It was a chance to learn a lot and to, be very involved in your children's lives. My parents were
Yes.
living at the time, so we could hop up whenever we wanted, go to Chicago, take our schoolwork in the car, do the homework on the way, do the homework when we
Yes.
got there, and be able to see them. And now, in retrospect, I think about, how they would have missed out on their grandparents living in another state, and how they were,
Yes.
that was one of the benefits. I know it's not the main reason people homeschool, obviously, but
Mhm.
for me, that was personally the things you could do personally with your children, and also even addressing their particular strengths and weaknesses, and helping them develop in the areas they loved. My youngest
Yes.
daughter, she loved science and math. That's all she wanted to do. And I always worried, you need to read more, you need to do this. But she was able to develop her strengths and become a dentist, and
Yes.
use those.
Awesome.
My other daughter loved to read. From the
Right.
time she was a little girl, she could read a thick book, and that was years above her age level, and she would enjoy it and understand it. And so she went into communications. And so I feel like homeschooling is a really great thing. I think for African American parents, it's becoming something that people are really thinking more about doing now. As people talk about the school options not being great. Sometimes your option is either maybe, and I'm not to say this for all schools, of course, because I hate to say any blanket remark like all homeschoolers
Right.
are X, or all people went to such and such school, because there's always a million exceptions to the rules.
Yes.
But overall, many people feel like the schools are failing us.
Yes.
Or they can choose a private school where perhaps there's no diversity, and maybe you wonder, will that affect your child? Will they feel that they don't fit in? Will that,
Mhm.
harm them in some other way, even though perhaps they're getting a better education? And so it's just another option that people can look at. And now I think with COVID and people working from home, it's a little bit easier than ever before.
Yes. Wow. Great. Thank you.
I think one of the things that, talking about diversity, and I think I came to that meeting in Tuscaloosa. That's where we met, I
Yes, that's
think.
right.
And well, they were addressing the diversity issue because there was no diversity in this PR organization. Uh,
Right.
so let me. So you get a new client, big corporate client, small business client. Do you approach them differently? What's your initial approach in terms of how you're going to deal with this client?
Well, I do think with your clients, many of mine have been similar. I've done a lot of colleges, for example, but I think in many cases, I've worked for different places. I worked for Rally's Hamburgers, for example, did their corporate communications director. So I've done a variety. And I think at the end of the day, public relations is really about relationships, and it's building a mutually beneficial relationship between your organization or your college and whatever your public is, your audience. For a college, it may be donors, schools. For a company, large corporation, it may be shareholders. But making sure that you build a mutually beneficial relationship with those people, and with the media, working with the media. Sometimes people who do public relations, but maybe it's not their strength or their specialty. They feel that, the media owes me. I'm going to send them this release and it needs to be on the front page. And they don't understand that's not how it works, that you need to give them something that they need too. Is this a well-written article? Is this an article that's sharing some information that their readers want to read? If you expect the new TV stations to show up, that's of course a little bit easier than it used to be now with COVID, because they can just film you. So it's a little bit easier to get coverage sometimes, because they don't have to say we're sending someone an hour away to your event. But still, you have to think about, is this an event that they're going to be interested in? Why would they be interested? Why would their viewers be interested? What can you do to make sure that it's interesting to them and that they're getting a benefit out of it too? And so I think that's the main thing. And then knowing who you are, knowing what your company is, how they always say, be yourself because everybody else is taken. It's the same with companies. I think I've had employers tell me things like, in the past, and none I'll name, but they'll say, "Oh, I want to do an article just like this, just what some other person did, and it's like, why do we want to do just what they did? Because they're not us. That's a different organization. So we're not trying to just copy what they did. We're trying to look at what really works for us, and who are we as an organization, and what fits in with our brand."
I think, and I know the answer to this, so I'll just say it anyway. Answer it. How important is consistency? Because some people, you think if you do one big ad or one big thing, then that should soak in, and everybody should follow whatever it was you said in this particular ad. But there has to be consistency. I call it the two C's: consistency and communication.
Mhm.
And if you're not communicating, you can't communicate one time and think you've done your job.
Oh, yes.
Just comments.
Oh, that's so true. That's so true. You have to keep saying it over and over again. And the thing is, even with a lie, if you say it over and over again, people start believing it. So you have to, with the truth and something positive that you want to share about your organization, you need to keep saying it over and over again, reminding people. I know sometimes if I'm up against, say something on social media where for a client or an employer, someone saying something that's not accurate, well, you could correct it once, but someone will come back and say it again the next week or the next month. So you need to look at what strategies you can use to keep on reminding them, that this is what the truth is. This is the story that's real. And so that consistency is extremely important, I think, sharing that message. And sometimes you got to find creative ways. You can't always just keep saying the exact same thing. Sometimes that works, saying the exact same thing over and over again. Sometimes you have to use different ways to say it. If you want to say, this is a great college, you really, your child needs to attend here, you might need a story about this person one day who's a success story who came out of that college. You may need a success story about a student there, how they're doing something great. You may need a success story about an administrator, what they've done. And so you're constantly layering more and more information about you and to make them see that this is a great place. Or this is a message that you want to share. You want to keep saying it over and over and over again.
Barbara, Michael, you guys.
Yes, I want to ask you a scenario, or
Okay.
you may say hypothetical. Let's just say you've been given the PR account or put together a PR program for the police departments in the United States.
Right.
And their relationships with people of color.
Mm-hmm.
What would you do to try to enhance that relationship? And I think about what you just said a moment ago when you said, if you tell people a lie over and over again, people start to believe it. That sounds like the strategy of our former president, but I'll let that go. I digress. But tell me, what kind of program would you put together for the police department and the community?
Well, I think first of all, you'd have to really, know what the issue is. Are there some real issues in that community, which there are in most places? You've got to get to the source, because you can put together a campaign, but I think when it comes to life and death and real serious issues where we're talking about, things that are happening with between police and communities, you also have to really look at some serious solutions. It's not just a PR cover up. You've got to really look at, what are we going to do differently? You got to meet with people, know who they are, know what the issue is. Are there, good cops, bad cops? Are there situations that need to be changed? And then, PR is kind of the next thing after you've really fixed the problems, or at least set forth some solutions to fix the problems. You admitted that there's a problem. Then you can start saying, what are we going to, now that we're making this change, how are we going to let the public know that we're making some changes, we're trying to do things differently or better, and we want to make sure you know about it. So it might be meeting with the community to let them know. It's all kind of beyond, it used to be that it was just PR. Now, there's this whole world where communications is all tied together.
Yes.
It's not like when I started my career, for example, there was always a director of marketing. I was director of PR, and we worked together. They do all the events, and then I would publicize them. Now all of the fields have kind of merged together.
Mm-hmm.
So the community relations, the public relations, the marketing, they're all kind of tied together now. And so you have to look at all of that as a whole, not simply that I'm going to say, something as a PR person that, oh, things are great, or I'm going to, make this, great slogan about how we're getting along, but really look at what are things we can do to really solve the problem, or along the steps away as we're getting better. How are we going to publicize that? Let them know. Maybe it'd be a news conference where we come forward and say, this is what we're doing to change that problem, and these are plans. And then, continuing to maintain communication, letting people know what you're doing to make things better each step of the way.
Okay. That's a very good answer.
Yes.
And that was along my thought process, but you first got to find a solution to the problem. So,
Right.
And more importantly, you got to admit that there is a problem. First.
Yeah, that's first step.
Right. And know what it is too, because, sometimes we think we know the problem, and you really have to figure out, okay, what is the problem before I go to address it? There's some PR people like to apologize first right away. Let me apologize. Then there's others who say, well, no, let's not apologize until we know what we're doing wrong, or we know if we're doing something wrong in a particular case. So, having the more information you have, the better.
Okay.
I think, to work with.
I know a former president could use your services.
I know a lot of people that could use her services.
Well, I tell you, on a personal level, a lot of the things that you do on a professional level, they're the same things that, some of it almost seems like common sense. It's not necessarily, but some things seem like common sense that, what you do in your personal life, because a lot of times if we fail at something, a lot of times we know why we failed at it. If we do great at something, we know what we did to make it great, but sometimes we don't do all of those steps.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think one of the issues with social media for me is everybody has an opinion.
Yes.
And
like a nose.
Most of the time, they don't know beyond what they've read in the newspaper or what they've read on social media. The former president at Auburn, Jay Goose, who I admire a lot, had a saying: the president doesn't have anything to say until he has something to say. And, there's a lot of, and I'm just going to say this, and I'm not challenging what you said, Barbara, but there are a lot of people commenting on a situation now at Auburn that doesn't know anything about the situation.
Yeah, absolutely right. That's true.
And but they got a platform.
Right.
They got a social media account.
Yes.
Right.
And when you put something out that is as strong as, and you use the word racism, you're probably not doing the university a service.
Right.
You're probably doing them a disservice because you don't know what the F you're talking about. That's unfortunate. That's my.
Yes, it is.
Y'all go ahead.
And they always say the worst way to measure public opinion is by social media. Because people think, they'll look on social media and think everybody hates me.
Right.
But these are the people like to talk.
Right.
Saying, and the other people might just think you're wonderful, but they don't feel compelled to do anything other than maybe click like.
Right.
And they may not even click like, but they might be perfectly, happy with what you're doing. But those are the most vocal people. And sometimes they're just people want attention because it's a great way to draw attention to yourself when you attack someone else on social media.
So true.
So it's, really important for an organization not to look at their social media as really an indication of how they're doing.
Right. That's so true.
Yeah. That's I've always said, and I kind of go along with what all of you are saying about social media. I think it's a great platform if you use it in the right way.
Right.
Because you can help people, you can even save lives, do a lot of things that you can get the word out that will benefit the quality of life of everybody.
Right.
But at the same time, it gives people, as Thom always says, that do not have a thought in their mind, a platform to go out and let everybody know they don't have a thought in their mind.
Well,
And they repeat that same thought over and over and over and over again.
Yeah.
And like we said before, you keep saying something, people start to believe it, whether it's true or not. And many times it's not true.
There's a saying that a lie can make its way all the way around the world while truth is still getting up in the morning time at you.
That's so true, Mary.
So it is something. And, but I think public relations is a great field. It's a changing field. I see now they're PR majors. That was virtually unheard of years ago. Now there are people getting a PhD in public relations, a master's in public relations. So it's changed a great deal. And I think part of it is because of social media, we've gotten to have much more exposure to everything happening. People know what public relations is. I used to have to explain what that was for years. People had no idea what it was when I said, I'm a PR director. They thought, what is that? They had no idea. But now I think everybody in the world pretty much knows what public relations is.
Yes.
Well, they didn't know what it was. And then also the fact that they didn't know what it was, they felt anybody could do it.
Right.
Well, just go get John.
Right.
John can handle that. He did. And there is, if you're smart, there's a strategic way to deal with it, a strategic way to think about it.
Yes.
How you go, if you think about something as simple as the president doesn't have anything to say until he has something to say. Most of the things that go on that create headlines, none of us really know what's going on there.
Right.
None of us know what's going on behind the scenes. None of us know what's going on in depth. I mean, we talk about Lindsey Graham. I feel like something's going on there, but I don't know why he backtracked on his statements. And so whoever is doing his PR is trying to position that in a positive light. I think the other thing that I found with social media and why I generally avoid it a lot of times is it creates a herd mentality. And you think, okay, well, God, there were 30 people and they all said the same thing on social media. That doesn't mean SHIT. I mean, it doesn't.
Right.
And so, but the herd is saying it. They're saying it. And And I think what we'll come away with this conversation is social media is not PR. We're talking about PR from a scientific perspective.
Right.
We're not talking about it from, oh man, I got up this morning and I saw where so-and-so and so-and-so did something. So there had to be racism in there somewhere. Let me just, if I say it's racism, then 30 more people say it's racism, then
must be in their minds. It is.
Right. And I think, you often when there's a strategy going on, we have no idea why. And I know as a PR person, there's been a time, because I really think it's important to build your relationship with the media. Sometimes people think, oh, I can remember once getting some really good coverage somewhere I lived. And someone said, well, they don't have anything else to write anyway. Kind of like, that wasn't big feat that you got them to print your article. And they don't understand. They could have chosen articles by 10 different organizations.
That's right.
But they chose to print what I sent them. And so I feel like that's something I should be thankful for.
Sure.
But some people don't understand that. They don't understand. And then sometimes, though, as a PR person, there's times you can't give away certain information. It's not the right timing. There's an issue. And it's not necessarily a scandal or anything like that, but you just can't give the information away. And that can be challenging, for people who aren't in PR because they don't understand that. Well, tell me everything. I want to know everything. And there might be a reason,
Yes.
If you're revealing something, let's say somebody has an illness. It may be that legally you understand it's not your position to share their illness. They might be wondering, why is this person missing, or not at this event? And you can't say, well, they've got this because that's their personal business, lawsuits and things like that. So often in public relations, there are background things happening that the public really has no idea about and you can't even talk about.
Exactly. Yeah.
And it makes it difficult, I think, in the field because you feel like, okay, I've got these trusted people I've worked with. They've done things for me. I feel like, I owe them one, but I just can't give this information.
Right.
When I worked at Bell South in PR, something came. I was working for Bell South Services, which was a service entity for the United States. And word got out some kind of way that we were getting ready to buy a new corporate jet. And apparently the powers that be didn't want this out, that we were going to buy a new corporate jet. And so you go down the totem pole, who's the lowest man? Me, Thom. I don't need this to be in the newspaper tomorrow about this airplane. You got to handle it. And so I called the guy up in New York, and we had a great conversation. We talked a long time. And my whole goal was just to win him long term. Maybe I couldn't win him on this, but if I could create a relationship with him, I could have him long term. And the last thing my boss said when we left the office that day was, "Your name better not be in that newspaper tomorrow." It's like, okay. And it wasn't in the newspaper. I did that part.
You did it right.
But you know, it's a great job. I what we do here has a lot of PR to it. And it's so broad now. We talk about social media, but it's so broad.
Yes.
There's so many ways to communicate to people. There's so many ways that we communicate. You just said website. So many ways we communicate with people without us actually having to touch the product, without us actually having to be the one that goes out and says, "Hey man, don't put this in the newspaper,"
Right.
So it's I think it's a great field. I always enjoyed it, and hopefully we'll continue.
Well, it has a lot of growth.
Yes.
A lot of growth coming.
Mary, you got anything else you want to share with us this morning?
Well, it's an exciting field. I'm glad you shed some light on it. I think it's a growing field, and great to see so many young people going into PR and all the different aspects of it. And great to be on the show to talk to all of you. It was really fun to just chat with you.
So if there's somebody out there this morning who says, I need to talk to that lady about my business, how do they get in touch with you?
They can just contact me on Facebook. That's the best way.
Okay.
Mary Sood.
Okay.
I'm the only one. I think I used to be the only Mary Sood. I think there might be some more now, but they'll find me easily.
Okay, sounds good. Barbara, Michael, you guys good?
Yes,
thank you for joining
Mary,
us.
for joining us.
Yes,
Mary, thank you so much. We'll be back in touch. Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
All right.
Y'all have a great day.
You too. Bye-bye. Okay, thank you, Mary Sood. I met Mary many years ago at a PR committee conference in Tuscaloosa. So let's see. Our closing commentary for today, or as I see it, is college football. Some started this past week. More teams start this weekend. And I hope that your team wins this weekend, unless, of course, they're playing my team. So, and the teams that are relevant to people who live down on the coast here are Auburn is playing Mercer, Alabama's playing Utah State, Florida is playing Utah, which is number 7 in the country, and Florida State beat the Dukes 47-7 last week. And so we'll kick it off next week, and we can finally get rid of all this speculation. Is Kevin Durant going to be traded, or is he not going to be traded? And is Tom Brady the greatest ever? Is he not the greatest ever? Blah, 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 blah. Anyway, that's how I see it on August 30th in the year 2022. That's our show for today. Thank the audience. We appreciate you. Thank Michael and Barbara. And thank Mary. Mary, you were an outstanding G-List guest. We appreciate you so much. Thank our sponsor, Best Girl. I want to thank Sean Jones, the organizer and producer of the show, and the Got a Minute. And remember to enjoy yourself. Stay safe. Peace.